Right diligence and the path to meditation. Right diligence, working for merit, can be incredibly challenging, not at all simple. Yet, the Buddha didn't place right diligence before right livelihood to support it, nor did he place it before the cultivation of right view, right thought, or faith. Instead, the Buddha positioned right diligence as the gateway to meditative practice. This tells us something crucial: embarking on meditation is exceptionally difficult. That's why the Buddha put this stage of right diligence first, as a doorway to build the necessary strength before delving deep into meditation. Looking at this progression, we understand that no matter how difficult our past spiritual endeavors may have been, sacrificing ourselves, enduring hardship, wandering in the elements, accumulating countless merits for the Dharma and sentient beings, none of that truly compares to the difficulty of cultivating meditation. It's essential to grasp this to appreciate the profound importance of meditative practice, which is why the Buddha placed right diligence before it. This is why many meditation courses often see numbers decrease rather than increase. Those who persevere in this practice are truly exceptional. Why? Because meditating is incredibly hard. Only those who step into it truly understand. We're fighting an enemy without form, without characteristics, an enemy we can't see. We're battling on a battlefield where we don't know who we are or who the enemy is. It's vague, yet we must push through and fight. This kind of struggle is profoundly agonizing. Imagine if we had a visible enemy to fight. Even if it was difficult, it would be easier. If someone argued with us, we could easily respond. But here, we're fighting an enemy that seems to be ourselves. It seems to be us, so we don't know how to strike, yet we must strike. If we don't, we can't enter concentration. But if we strike, who do we strike? It's like slapping your own face again and again. Meditation is that abstract, that vague, yet it's the pinnacle, the ultimate path of Buddhism. That's why it's so challenging. Therefore, those who enter meditation without preparing themselves with immense effort and unwavering willpower often give up. Many excitedly begin meditating, hearing it can lead to enlightenment or sainthood. But after a few months, or at most a few years, they become exhausted and abandon it, seeing no results. To persevere in the long process of meditation, we must cultivate an extraordinary, unyielding willpower. It's not easy. This is the content of today's talk. At the end of the lecture, we'll take a break, and during that time, you can write down your questions. After a short interlude, we'll answer them. The apex of Buddhist teachings: right diligence, mindfulness, and concentration. We know that meditation is the primary path to enlightenment and liberation within the cultivation of the Eightfold Path. Previously, we learned about the truth of suffering, abstract philosophical discussions. Those lessons were easy. We learned about the truth of origin, which is a bit more abstract. We learned about the truth of cessation and the truth of the path. These were also theoretical discussions. The truth of the path involves practical application, like how to cultivate right view and right thought. Those topics still had plenty to discuss, making them engaging to listen to, and whether we could apply them immediately was less pressing. However, when we moved to right diligence, right mindfulness, and right concentration, we realized that without actual practice, we won't understand. Therefore, when we study the fundamental teachings of the Buddha, particularly the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, reaching the final sections of right diligence, right mindfulness, and right concentration means we have ascended to the pinnacle of the Dharma. Right mindfulness and right concentration are the highest points of the teachings. So, I must warn you, it will be very easy to fall asleep, very difficult to understand, very boring, and very abstract. There will be no more interesting stories like before. Please prepare yourselves mentally. This is why those who come here fall into two categories. Those who are determined to practice to reach the apex of Buddhism, which is meditation found in right mindfulness and right concentration. Those who suffer from chronic insomnia and come to listen, then fall into a deep sleep they've never experienced before. So, prepare yourselves because these lessons are very challenging. It's like profound scriptures which are often taught to very few people. That's because they fall asleep anyway, so they don't need to come. Therefore, right mindfulness and right concentration will be equally difficult. So, for the remaining lessons of the Four Noble Truths, today's and two more, if you feel bored, don't be surprised. We are entering the difficult stage, discussing things that seem not to belong to us but to the enlightened beings. The Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Fruits. There was a time when someone asked the Buddha if, by not following him but rather other religious leaders, one could still attain the Four Noble Fruits: stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and arhat, the ultimate liberation. The Buddha answered skillfully, wherever there is the Eightfold Path, there will be the Four Noble Fruits. The Buddha didn't say only by following me or only through my religion to avoid offending anyone. If he had said you will never attain these four fruits by following other religions, people would have thought he was biased. So he spoke very skillfully and precisely. I don't know who you follow or which religion, but if there is a complete Eightfold Path, then the Four Noble Fruits will appear there. The Eightfold Path as taught by the Buddha is a complete system of practice. We just need to ensure we understand it fully. This complete path is clearly divided into two main parts, though it could be divided more. We'll simplify to two for ease of understanding. From right view to right livelihood. These aim to create an extremely wholesome life. From right diligence to right concentration, these aim to develop deep meditative states. So, based on the Eightfold Path, we can summarize the Buddhist practice as follows. In the first stage, the practitioner must purify their life and live an extremely wholesome existence. This is the first requirement. Then, in the second stage, they delve deep into meditation. These two stages of Buddhist practice are interdependent and complementary. A wholesome life provides the merit to go deep into meditation. And conversely, deep concentration in meditation can also build a wholesome life. Thus, there's a strong connection between a wholesome life and meditation. Therefore, a Buddhist disciple, whether monastic or lay, must practice both simultaneously, living a wholesome life while also cultivating meditation. These two support each other. You cannot say, I'll only practice meditation. I don't need to live a wholesome life yet. That's incorrect. Why? Because meditation also helps us master our minds, which then supports a wholesome life. Conversely, you also cannot say, I don't care about this life, it's illusory for sentient beings. I just need to concentrate in meditation to achieve liberation. Such reasoning is entirely contrary to Buddhism. Without a wholesome life, we will never attain meditation. These are two clear correlations, and we can use them as a benchmark to assess whether a Buddhist practitioner is on the right path. Assessing a practitioner's progress. What does this mean? It means if someone tells us they have achieved a certain level of meditation, reaching certain states of concentration, we shouldn't immediately believe them. First, we should observe their life. If we see that this person truly lives a wholesome life, then we can trust that their claims about their meditation practice might be true. However, even if someone claims that when they meditate, their mind is free from wandering thoughts, deeply concentrated, possibly experiencing supernatural powers, light, wisdom, or aura, but we observe that their everyday life lacks solid virtue, their conduct is unrefined, and their good deeds are not well developed, then what they describe as a pure mind might just be a temporary merit from a past life, or they might be lying. Therefore, we must consider both aspects to evaluate if someone is practicing correctly. Conversely, if someone lives an exceptionally wholesome, upright, and stable life, with increasing good deeds, but when asked about their meditation, they say they are still poor at it and their mind is very chaotic, we also shouldn't immediately believe them. Why? Because we know for sure that from a wholesome life, when one meditates, their mind will definitely settle into tranquility. Remember that these two aspects are always intertwined. Buddhism builds upon such fundamental, practical principles. So, we can say this, if someone claims Buddhism is a sublime religion transcending the world, because meditation allows one to purify the mind, free it from all worldly attachments, and achieve liberation, making it a transcendent path, we can agree. It's true because Buddhism has meditation, and meditation helps one transcend all attachments. Or, if someone says Buddhism is a very practical religion because it teaches people to live a wholesome life, doing good deeds, helping others, perfecting one's ethics for the benefit of family and society, we can also agree. Buddhism is indeed practical and wholesome. The Buddha taught from right resolution to right livelihood to help us build a wholesome life. Therefore, Buddhism has both aspects. Engaged with the world. It requires us to live a wholesome life with everyone around us, living correctly and virtuously. In this aspect, Buddhism is an active, engaged religion. Transcendent. It's true that Buddhism is transcendent, but you cannot say Buddhism is passive or negative. If anyone understands Buddhism as passive or negative, they are mistaken. Because in the initial stage, Buddhism is very active, very dynamic, and very wholesome. In the second stage, Buddhism is very transcendent. We must understand it this way. So, if someone misunderstands Buddhism, let's patiently explain to them so they don't accumulate negative karma from such misconceptions, and we ourselves must follow this path. 3 types of diligence. Earlier, we discussed that willpower or diligence is an extremely important issue in the Eightfold Path, serving as the gateway to meditation because meditation is very difficult. Here, we differentiate diligence or willpower into 3 types. The indolent, undiligent type, these individuals are unwilling to exert effort or face hardship. They might do some good deeds, visit a spiritual center, recite scriptures, listen to Dharma talks, and perform some acts of merit they enjoy, but they are not considered diligent in the sense of the Eightfold Path. The diligent person in the Eightfold Path possesses extraordinary, unshakable willpower. So, the first type, the indolent and undiligent, beware, this might be us. The extremely fiercely diligent but mistaken type, wrong diligence, these individuals are fiercely determined to practice to the end, and their willpower is admirable. We might even be impressed by their determination. However, their diligence is entirely mistaken and only leads to collapse. This is because their views are wrong, their path is wrong. They lack guidance, and they are extremist or fanatical. The more diligent they are, the more they fall into suffering, the more they collapse, and the more easily they become unstable. This is called wrong diligence. These individuals are also rare, but they exist. In their early stages of practice, we immediately see their intense diligence, which can be frightening. The precisely and correctly diligent type, right diligence, this type practices diligence accurately, moderately, and in accordance with the Buddha's teachings. To reiterate, we differentiate 3 types of people, the indolent and undiligent, the wrongly diligent, and the rightly diligent. Among these 3, the most difficult is right diligence because it is a precise, accurate, and appropriate effort aligned with the practice method to achieve mental concentration in meditation. The type that most people fall into is the indolent and undiligent, meaning lazy. Which type are we? Each person should reflect on themselves. If we say we are indolent and undiligent, we might not entirely agree. Why? Because we see ourselves doing some practice, right? We know how to create merit, how to go to a spiritual center. On days when the teachers teach meditation, we sit like everyone else, right? And when others sleep, we also sleep like everyone else. Without fear. So, to call us completely indolent might not be entirely accurate. We aren't completely indolent or careless, but we haven't reached true diligence yet. So, most of us here are probably in this category. There's also a segment that is completely careless and indolent. These are people who are lazy when others are working or making merit. For example, they might like listening to spiritual talks when someone plays a good recording, praising it, and then doing nothing more. Or if someone invites them to a spiritual center, they have to be physically carried there, pulled into the main hall to prostrate, and then they go home and play. They won't go by themselves or prostrate by themselves, or if asked to meditate, they'll smile evasively and disappear immediately. Those are the completely careless ones. Are there any here? Probably not, because if there were, they'd have to be dragged here to listen to the Dharma, and no one here is being held against their will, right? So we're not so indolent as to be completely careless. However, to call ourselves full of willpower and effort to sit in meditation, fighting the pain of the body and the wandering thoughts of the mind, most of us here aren't in that category. Not many, right? Not many. Therefore, today when we learn about right diligence, we must understand that if we want to fully follow the Buddha's path in the Eightfold Path and delve deep into meditation, our previous casual practice won't suffice anymore. From today, after hearing this talk, we must transform into new people, people of extraordinary diligence and effort to enter meditation. A crossroads, the path of gradual cultivation versus the path of ultimate liberation. Let's consider this. Today, after learning this lesson, it's like we stand at a crossroads. Those who yawn are already showing a lack of diligence, right? You see? This lesson is like that, very easy to make you sleepy. The Buddha forces us to stand at a crossroads. Either we turn left or we turn right. Turn left, choose the path of gradual cultivation, remaining ordinary for countless lifetimes, not reaching any ultimate goal. Just accumulating merit for future lives and repaying negative karma. Just casually from one life to the next. Turn right. Choose the path of those determined to live and die to achieve meditation, to attain enlightenment and liberation one day. When we reach this lesson, there are no more alternative choices. So now let's think, if we choose the path on the left, meaning we cultivate casually, earning whatever merit we earn, then we don't need to listen to this lesson anymore. It's superfluous. We have the right to stand up and leave. But don't leave permanently. Go find some money and come back here to help build the spiritual center to accumulate some merit. Don't just leave. Or we turn onto the path on the right. We are determined to achieve liberation and enlightenment. We are determined to become a saint. We are determined to practice with enough strength, enough experience, and enough wisdom to propagate the Dharma, continuing the Buddha's path. We only have one of these two paths today standing at this crossroads. By this lesson, there's no more hesitation. Therefore, those who listen to this lesson on right diligence and are determined to persevere until liberation and enlightenment are people who have reached a new level. They are no longer ordinary people. We might still have the outward appearance of lay practitioners, but if we listen to this lesson and accept it and practice according to it to prepare for right mindfulness and right concentration, we are becoming new people, stepping up to a higher level. This praise might make you a bit arrogant, but I must praise you because it's the truth. The truth is, before this, in the previous lessons, we were ordinary people, good Buddhists. But from today, by practicing this lesson, we step up to a higher level. We are no longer the ordinary people we were. This is a sincere and accurate compliment, even if it might make us arrogant. Therefore, when you hear this praise and accept the practice of right diligence to enter right mindfulness and right concentration, remember to let go of any arrogance or pride that arises from hearing my praise. But know that it's the truth. From today, you are no longer allowed to live as ordinary people but are determined to practice, whether you are lay or monastic, extraordinary diligence in lay practitioners, especially among lay practitioners. There are many who, despite being lay, possess a heaven-soaring willpower as if they have secretly resolved to practice, single-mindedly guarding and controlling their minds every hour, every minute in meditation. These are examples of great diligence, right diligence, truly aligned with Buddhism. Although they live among people with hair on their heads and wearing secular clothes, they no longer belong to this human world. They have stepped onto a path leading towards sainthood. Such individuals would not take long to ordain because that character, that diligence, has pulled them out of the ordinary class of people. In English, we might call them outstanding. We don't have an exact equivalent, but we must understand that they transcend the common people. From today's lesson, if we decide to accept this teaching of right diligence, we have stepped out of the ordinary and ascended to a new class of people, the kind of people the Buddha would raise to be future teachers who propagate the Dharma. I keep repeating this point because it's so difficult, so we need to prepare our minds carefully. What is willpower? Now let's define willpower. Who knows what willpower is? What is willpower that gives us the strength to overcome all difficulties and persevere in our endeavors? If we listen to the lesson on diligence in a series about the psychology of ethics, we'll understand that willpower is something that cannot be expressed or defined in words, right? Do you remember? No one remembers, surprisingly. Has anyone heard psychology of ethics? Have you heard it and forgotten it? This is a sad thing. So, for those Dharma talks or lessons you've watched or heard before, don't think you've grasped them or that they've permeated your being. Not yet. So, please make the effort to listen and watch again. When you listen to the lesson on diligence, you'll hear the definition that willpower cannot be defined or expressed in words because it is the invisible power of the mind beyond language. But it is something we don't know what. That manifests as a determination that helps us do three things: overcome hardship, overcome temptations, persevere in a project, task, or undertaking for a long time. So, to reiterate, willpower is something we don't know how to define or express because language cannot delve into this. But its manifestations are clear. It is a determination that helps us achieve three things: overcoming hardship, overcoming temptation, and being able to persevere in a project for a long time. Overcoming hardship, the inner struggle. Now let's discuss the first point, overcoming hardship. We're not talking about the countless hardships in everyday life here. The hardship the Buddha refers to in right diligence is the difficulty of the inner mind when we practice meditation. It's the difficulty within our own minds, not the endless external difficulties. The first difficulty is this: we must overcome and conquer the wandering thoughts that arise from within our minds. That's the first difficulty. Practitioners fear wandering thoughts more than anything else, right? We fear wandering thoughts, we don't fear anything else. Many times, we don't fear our mothers. We don't fear robbers, some even say they don't fear political leaders, but we must fear our own wandering thoughts. Why? Because they are like our very selves. Now it's time for us to destroy them. So, wandering thoughts are like ourselves, yet they are also an enemy. This idea is very profound. When we read an anecdote about a Zen master, there's a story where Master Mazu met a hunter. This hunter was a skilled archer, making his living by hunting and selling animals. Master Mazu met him on the road, knowing that this was a potential disciple, someone who could practice and attain enlightenment. At that time, the hunter was engaged in the negative karma of killing, which seemed unwholesome. But Master Mazu was determined to guide him. Master Mazu saw the hunter carrying a bow and arrow, chasing an animal. He stood in the way and stopped him. We should understand that in ancient times, Zen masters were often skilled in martial arts, and Mazu was very proficient. Seeing a man carrying a bow and arrow, rushing through the forest, powerfully built, clearly skilled in martial arts, the hunter was also a skilled fighter. But when he saw Mazu standing in his path with a new and powerful martial arts stance, he immediately stopped. Mazu then asked, "Are you a hunter?" "Yes, Master," the hunter replied. "I am a hunter. With one arrow, how many animals can you shoot?" "With one arrow, I can only shoot one animal," the hunter said. Mazu then said, "You are not as good as I am. How many can this monk shoot with one arrow?" "With one arrow, I can shoot a whole flock," Mazu replied. The hunter then said, "The lives of sentient beings, to shoot a whole flock with one arrow seems rather cruel." We see that this hunter, despite his cruel profession, had good roots. He said aloud, "Oh, the lives of sentient beings. To kill a whole flock with one arrow like that is truly evil karma." Master Mazu then said, "If you know that, why don't you shoot yourself?" When the hunter heard that, it awakened something invisible within him. When we hear it, we might not understand, but the hunter, because he had good roots, immediately understood what shooting oneself meant. What is it? It's the wandering thoughts we're talking about, because wandering thoughts are like our very selves. The thing we must destroy and overcome is unexpectedly ourselves. This is very difficult. But when Mazu gave that hint, the hunter suddenly had an awakening, realizing something profound hidden within. The enemy he had been searching for outside was unexpectedly within himself. Suddenly, his good roots surged powerfully. That day, the hunter, with his inner strength, broke his arrow and bow, immediately knelt before Mazu, and asked to ordain and follow him. Mazu nodded, took him back to the temple, shaved his head, and he became a monk. Later, he attained enlightenment through his practice. His teachings weren't widespread, but he was a remarkable case. Perhaps due to his heavy karma from killing, so he didn't become a Zen master who guided many sentient beings. Nevertheless, he was an enlightened being thanks to that single phrase, "Shoot yourself." Similarly, in our practice, we also face an enemy that is unexpectedly ourselves. There is no enemy more terrifying than ourselves. Therefore, if we want to know our most dangerous enemy, please look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. For example, if someone praises us, saying, "You are so beautiful, so lovely, so charming," don't believe them. Because we should remember that every morning when we look in the mirror, we know this face is the enemy. It is the enemy, especially for the ladies. If anyone praises you, don't believe them from now on, because you know the face they're praising is your enemy. Why? Because countless evil thoughts arise from it. Now we must destroy them. So, that's the first difficulty that requires extraordinary diligence to overcome. The second difficulty, the habit of thinking. The second difficulty is this. Our brain has long been accustomed to generating thoughts, right? From childhood to adulthood, has anyone ever been able to stop thinking? Only when we fall asleep do we stop, but in daily life, thoughts seem to continuously arise, one after another. It's become a habit. Now, stopping them is not easy. Earlier, we discussed the first difficulty, wandering thoughts are ourselves. So they are very difficult to fight. This time, the second difficulty is that wandering thoughts are a habit, so stopping them is not easy. That's the second hardship. What's even more difficult is that the method we use to stop wandering thoughts is also a wandering thought, right? It's also a wandering thought. For example, Imagine your mind thinking, oh, the spiritual leader here is so inspiring. Maybe I'll visit them sometime and talk for a bit. I hear they speak very well. I'll visit them and talk for a bit. Then you think, no, that's a wandering thought. Let them focus on their practice and work. Is that second thought also a wandering thought? Yes, it's also a thought, right? The first thought is a thought that you consider wrong, so you generate a second thought to dismiss the first one. The second thought is also a thought, also a wandering thought. So, we see. Wandering thoughts are a habit that is hard to stop, and the method, the means to stop wandering thoughts, is also a wandering thought. To illustrate this complexity, a Zen master compiled a story about 4 brothers who competed in silence. They sat in silence, no one speaking. Someone wanted to know what was happening. As they sat silently, like a light being extinguished, a quick-witted person couldn't help but say, "The light's out." The second person said, "You just spoke." The third person said, "Both of you spoke." The fourth person said, "Only I haven't spoken until now." So all 4 spoke. Our wandering thoughts are like that, too, thinking that goes nowhere, then we get annoyed that it's going nowhere. And that annoyance is also a thought. We keep thinking, and then we say, "Oh dear, that's also a thought." So, you see how difficult it is? Wandering thoughts are hard because our brain is accustomed to thinking, and stopping them is not easy. And the means to stop wandering thoughts is also a wandering thought. This is the second difficulty in meditation. The third difficulty, constant interaction with the world. The third difficulty is that in this life we have to calculate countless things. Even if we have enough blessings for food and clothing, we cannot completely escape external circumstances. When we interact with external circumstances, wandering thoughts always have the opportunity to arise, right? That's the third difficulty. This is why many people think, I'll just escape to a remote, secluded place, deep in the forest or mountains where I won't meet people and have to deal with so many sorrows, angers, and hatreds. And then perhaps I'll be less bothered and find it easier to concentrate. Do they know if their mind will truly be peaceful when they go to such a secluded place? We don't know. But currently, as we haven't reached such a place and still live in bustling cities, we have to meet countless people, right? With all their sorrows, angers, and hatreds, we have to deal with countless stories and work that require us to calculate and struggle. And when we calculate, our minds have to think, meaning wandering thoughts always have the opportunity to appear. This is the third difficulty in wanting to practice meditation. This difficulty is truly formidable. This difficulty makes us realize that if we say that as long as we have to think, we cannot concentrate, then no one in this world will ever achieve liberation. But the good news for us is this. Merit helps us build the power of concentration. This means that right livelihood helps us build the power of concentration. There might be times when we have to be preoccupied with calculations and work in this life, times when we have to struggle to make a living. But if we have merit, then when evening comes and things settle down, we can sit down, regulate our breath, follow our inhales and exhales, and our minds will immediately settle. It is precisely because of our merit that we can do this. Therefore, sentient beings have the opportunity for liberation. Even if we cannot escape to the deep forest or mountains, even if we still have to be busy with our surrounding life, we can still concentrate. This is because if we have previously created much merit, it's a way out for us. Otherwise, the usual difficulty is that we have to be preoccupied with interactions and wandering thoughts always resurface. Let's go back to the person who goes to a secluded place. There was a person who thought, living in the city is too messy with traffic jams and dust, so I'll escape to a remote forest. In a remote forest, there are streams, birds. It's incredibly beautiful. They didn't want to stay at a crowded spiritual center because it was also crowded. They hid in a bush or a cave, thinking that by doing so, their mind would be pure. Will it be pure? No, you haven't even gone yet, you're lazy. We think that in this chaotic city, if we go to a dense forest, a cave, befriending birds, beasts, streams, and forests, we'll be at peace. No, I tell you, when you go there, a million new problems will arise that you have to deal with. Don't believe me? Try living in the forest and you'll see. First, there are too many mosquitoes in the forest. You'll have to figure out how to get a mosquito net, right? Calculations. Then, after eating tree sprouts for 3 days, you can't stand it anymore. You don't know if anyone will pass by and give you some rice. You don't know where to find a pot to cook. You have to dry the firewood because fresh wood won't burn. And if you drink stream water, Be careful, you might get a stomachache. And if you get a stomachache in the mountains, there's no medicine readily available. It's very difficult, not easy at all. Then there are snakes, cobras, vipers crawling everywhere. At that point, you'll feel like a million new problems have appeared. In the city, there are also a million problems, but we're used to them and life is easier. We have annoying neighbors, but if we say hello to them, they don't do anything, they just smile, even if they're annoyed. We have electricity and water, mosquito nets. We'll see it's not that simple. So, in the end, we cannot demand an absolutely perfect environment because if our merit is not enough, we will still have worries. The important thing is to have merit. A method for mind concentration and a suitable environment to practice and achieve liberation. Don't misunderstand and escape to secluded places, you won't gain anything. The fourth difficulty. Unpaid karma. The fourth difficulty is this: we still have a lot of unpurified past karma, so in this life, we have to repay it. It is precisely this repayment of past karma that causes us immense mental suffering. It's not simple. This past karma manifests in many ways. For example, we might owe someone something, and that person falls ill, so we have to care for them. We can't abandon them, and caring for them is extremely burdensome and mentally taxing. Or, we might have some past karma that causes us to get hit by an accident, breaking a leg or an arm, forcing us to lie down for several months. Then we suffer greatly. We can't get up and practice meditation. That's also past karma. Or we might have some past karma that causes people to plot against us, curse us, or surround us, making it impossible for us to stay in one place and practice. These are all past karmas. This is the fourth difficulty. So we've just listed 4 difficulties. Do you still want to practice? Do you still want to practice? I hear 1 or 2 people say yes, but they're just smiling for fun. They've truly given up. When we hear the first 4 difficulties, we feel we're already stuck. And that's why we understand the value of right diligence for cultivating meditation. Without extraordinary strength and willpower, these first 4 difficulties will make us collapse within the first month. After that, anyone who hears about meditation will just smile mockingly. Only those with extraordinary willpower and great good roots from past lives will be determined to pursue the path of meditation to the end in this life. Retreating is still an option. At this point, remember you can still retreat. Earlier, you might have promised to turn right, saying, "Oh, the master hasn't mentioned the 4 difficulties yet, so I'll promise." Now that I've mentioned the 4 difficulties, you can blame me and say, "Okay, I'll turn left." It's still possible to retreat now. Will anyone retreat? Raise your hand. Oh, that's embarrassing, right? Raising your hand implies you're giving up. Now let's talk about something more appealing, the determination to overcome temptation. Earlier, we discussed the difficulties that hinder our practice, causing mental distress and preventing concentration. Now we'll talk about the determination to overcome temptation. There are many temptations, but we'll focus on 3 types. Temptations within ourselves, temptations from external circumstances, temptations due to abundant merit. Overcoming temptation. 3 types. Temptations within ourselves are what? It's our own body. Naturally, it demands all sorts of pleasures, doesn't it? It seeks pleasure. Why? Because within us, we have the feeling aggregate among the 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. The feeling aggregate constantly craves pleasure. That's how it is. The form aggregate craves what? It craves food, drink, and breath, the necessities for its existence and survival. But the feeling aggregate craves pleasure, it needs joys to survive. Actually, no one dies immediately without joy. Without food, drink, or breath, one dies very quickly. But if we live without joy, we don't die immediately. We slowly wither, gradually waste away, becoming gaunt and haggard, withered and desolate, melancholy, cold, lonely. The feeling aggregate slowly kills us like that. So when we see someone looking listless and dispirited, it means their feeling aggregate hasn't been fed. It hasn't been fed. Someone might be plump and healthy, meaning they have enough food, drink, and breath, but their face is gaunt and haggard, listless and sad. That means their feeling aggregate hasn't been fed, and they're seeking something to feed it. Be careful, you don't know what they might feed it with. There are many things the feeling aggregate demands fiercely that we cannot fully describe when teaching Buddhist scriptures. We just have to understand it implicitly. You understand, don't you? Many people understand immediately because they know everything. For example, simple things like cigarettes. I don't know if they taste good, but many people are addicted to them. And alcohol. Delicious food, beautiful clothes, there are so many things that make us happy. And pleasures are hard to describe. When we look at life, read the news, we surely know about drugs. Drugs are also a horrifying and terrifying temptation. These are temptations that arise from within ourselves. They don't need anyone to entice us. Our own body, our feeling aggregate, compels us to seek pleasure. And when we seek pleasure, our minds become agitated, we lose time, and our health declines, preventing us from progressing in our practice. This is something we must overcome. We don't advocate for asceticism or self-mortification, but we must overcome temptations, especially those from within ourselves, to be able to practice. That's the first type. The second type is temptations from external circumstances. These are external pleasures that call out to us. If we don't see them, we don't demand them, but if we see them, we naturally crave them. These are external temptations. The unfortunate thing about this world is that people often do business by creating pleasures to lure people in. For example, gambling establishments. Do you think gambling establishments are fun? Has anyone gambled? Do you say it's not fun? I don't know, but why do people keep pouring money into them? When they lose too much, many jump off buildings and commit suicide, as reported in the news. If we don't meet anyone who invites us, we usually don't get involved. But if someone invites us, or to nightclubs. Actually, since we're monastics, we don't have much contact and don't fully understand, but we know that in this world, people often do business by creating entertainment venues to lure people in and pour money into them. In other countries, there are secret societies completely unknown to the law. In these societies, people sometimes wear costumes and masks, and they organize extravagant, depraved parties that last all night, beyond imagination. These secret societies are protected by powerful and influential individuals, so no one can touch them. These secret societies are also starting to appear, influenced by the West. So, we see that while a free market economy can make it easier for us to do business and earn more income, we are also easily infiltrated by harmful cultural and spiritual elements from abroad. Some of these secret societies are like this. When people enter these societies, they forget they are married and engage in promiscuous sexual relations, considering it civilized. These societies completely destroy traditional morality. These societies are very secret because if the police found out, they would be arrested immediately. We know that these are temptations from external circumstances created by humans to lure people into the abyss of sin and degradation. For practitioners, if they live in a good environment and avoid going to corrupt places, they can reduce exposure to these invitations and temptations. We must know how to avoid such environments and maintain a good environment. The third type of temptation is due to abundant merit. This is how it works. When people become wealthy, powerful, and have a lot of money, if their virtue is not great, most people will become corrupt. This is a law. It's a law. Only those with great virtue can remain stable when they have great merit. To have a lot of money, a lot of power, and still live a good, wholesome life, just like before, requires immense virtue, truly great virtue. But if someone has ordinary virtue, low morality, and suddenly becomes a director, wealthy, and prestigious, never believe that person will remain decent. That's a definite statement. It's a rule of psychology. When someone has a lot of money but lacks a noble soul to use that money appropriately, they will always use it for indulgence and debauchery. This is true 99.99% of the time. So, if we meet someone who is a director driving a luxurious car and we see that they lack ideals and morality, then I assure you that person is corrupt. I say that with certainty. Will I get criticized for saying that? No. Because those of you sitting here who are directors, I assure you, you are not corrupt. Why? Because I'm flattering you, fearing you'll leave. It's because those people know how to go to a spiritual center and listen to Dharma, which means they have virtue. When you have great virtue, you can contain your merit within it. Virtue is like a reservoir, a container, and merit is like the water inside. If the container is small and there's a lot of water, the water will overflow, meaning you'll misuse your money for wrong things, for corruption and debauchery. But if someone has vast, immense virtue and very little money, they will never become corrupt. For example, if someone's virtue is worth 100 billion but they only have 2 billion, they won't become corrupt. They haven't even had enough to do good deeds, so how could they become corrupt? Therefore, Each of us must strive to create a very large reservoir, a very large mind, immense virtue. Because if we happen to win the lottery someday, a large sum, it won't overflow. We can hide it well. Remember, now is the time to prepare great virtue by cultivating morality, compassion, ultimate humility, and ideals for the Dharma. That means we are building virtue, expanding our container gradually. If one day we win a large sum, it won't affect us at all because our container can hold much more. But if we don't cultivate virtue beforehand, don't expand that reservoir and then happen to win a large sum, I guarantee you'll abandon your home and go out partying day and night, get into trouble, and even contract illnesses. Many news articles report these things, and we're not surprised. For example, I heard about a woman who became a director, earned a lot of money, and her husband was often away on business. She went to nightclubs, had multiple lovers, and ultimately her family was shattered, leading to divorce. Her merit also ran out. She was no longer a director, no longer had money, no longer had a family or a place to belong. She became a wreck. The news reports many such cases. Therefore, we must understand that small virtue and much money will inevitably lead to ruin. So, we must cultivate virtue first. Long-term commitment and perseverance. We are talking about overcoming these challenges, and it's not about lacking willpower or determination. We must think like this. We will be determined to turn right towards noble enlightenment and accept this path to last for countless eons. We must think that in our minds. Can we do it? Will we endure it? Are you sure? Many answer strongly, but I don't know if it's true or false. The human mind is like this. The difficulty of pursuing practice long-term is that we often get bored when doing something for a long time and like to change to something else. This psychology affects our willpower. It's that we get bored doing something for a long time. Does that happen? Yes. For example, when we go to a spiritual center, if the master asks us to chant a sutra, chanting it over and over again, we get bored. We say, "Oh, let's sing a song at the spiritual center today to relieve the boredom." Because chanting the Anatta Sutra is so boring. That's how our minds work. Or, if we say we go to a spiritual center, we keep going back and forth from home to that center and we get bored. So we think, maybe I'll go to a different center to relieve the boredom. That's how people's minds are. They get bored doing the same thing over and over. But loyalty often demands or requires us to keep doing the same thing. For example, in the secular world, many married couples are expected to love each other forever, and that's morality. In practice, for example, persevering on a path to liberation, you can't say, "I've been on the path to liberation for 3 years and I'm so bored, so I'll go out and play for 3 years, then come back and practice for 3 years. No, you can't. Morality and principles don't allow us to change, but our minds compel us to change for pleasure. Principles don't allow us to change, but our minds just love change. And that's a difficulty. It's a struggle between psychology and principle. Now, who will win? Therefore, to conquer the psychological tendency to seek change, we must have an extraordinary willpower. We must have extraordinary willpower. That's the point. We must overcome this. Do not change. Once you have chosen the path to liberation through meditation, go all the way. Never stop until you achieve enlightenment. That's the first difficulty. The second difficulty in the determination to pursue practice is this. Practicing for a long time without results leads to discouragement. Practicing for a long time without results leads to discouragement. For example, someone hears the masters say that the path of meditation leads to enlightenment and holy wisdom. So they follow the master and practice for 3 years. After 3 years, they see, I haven't attained anything yet. Then they start to get discouraged. So this psychological tendency prevents us from persevering long term. This is where we must overcome ourselves. We practice for 3 years and see no results. 3 more years, no results. 3 more years, and so on for countless eons until we attain enlightenment. Many people, sometimes monastics, practice for 20 years and then look back at their lives and see nothing. Then they start to fantasize about worldly matters. That's also a lack of willpower, a lack of diligence. The monastic life, when compared to meditation, is still a lower stage. The determination within meditation is the higher stage. Now, believe that the form of monastic practice is only a crude stage of practice. And deep absorption in meditation is the refined stage of practice. Some people have clung to meditation and entered the profound, specialized practice, yet after 5 years, no results, 10 years, no results, they get discouraged and give up. It's a great waste. So that's also not considered sufficient diligence. Therefore, we must overcome this. Do not set a time limit for practice. Practice endlessly to achieve it. Is the willpower great or not? We've listed so many difficulties so far, haven't we? We see it's incredibly difficult, not simple. That's why the Buddha placed right diligence at this crucial point, so we can prepare mentally. If we want to turn into the right path, our willpower must be extraordinary. We've just listed countless difficulties. Now let's address the ailment of laziness. For example, if we lack determination because we lack ideals, some people say they don't practice because they don't know where Buddhism leads. They don't desire enlightenment or liberation, so they don't make the effort to practice. If we want to cure this laziness due to a lack of ideals, what should we do? We must have ideals. We must have ideals. We must have wisdom to understand where Buddhism leads us, to an absolute, infinite, sublime, and holy place, so that we are determined to practice. When we have ideals, then we have the determination to follow through. Another case is when we lack determination because we lack merit in revering the Buddha. Anyone who practices for a while and doesn't prostrate to the Buddha starts to become lazy and indolent. So, to cure this laziness due to a lack of reverence for the Buddha, make an effort to diligently prostrate to the Buddha every day. When we prostrate to the Buddha sincerely, we naturally gain the strength of diligence. Sometimes we lack determination because we don't engage enough in training through hardship. For example, if we see a difficult task, we tend to avoid it. But we must practice by volunteering for difficult tasks to train our willpower. For example, today when we sit here listening to the Dharma, there are some sunny spots that make us feel discouraged. But if we move to a shady spot, we're taking someone else's place. So we sacrifice ourselves and sit in the sun, and someone else can sit in the shade. That's engaging in difficult tasks, which is also a way to train willpower. This is meant to praise those who are sitting with the sunlight shining on their faces. I praise you even when sweat is beading on your faces, but your expressions are incredibly beautiful. So, next time, remember to sit in the sun again. We lack determination because we do little good deeds to help others. Remember that merit also creates willpower. Anyone who diligently performs charitable acts naturally has the strength of willpower. If you feel lazy all the time and don't know why, please join a charitable organization or think of some good deeds to do. Just keep doing them, and after a while, you'll naturally gain strength and diligence. Remember that. Merit is the cure for laziness. Avoiding wrong diligence. Now let's talk about wrong diligence. What is it and how do we avoid it? Wrong diligence is when someone is fiercely determined to practice. But the problem is that they only know about one aspect of practice and don't see the comprehensive coordination of many factors. So they become extreme in a single method. For example, someone teaches them to recite the Buddha's name, so they only recite the Buddha's name and do nothing else. They don't do good deeds, don't prostrate to the Buddha, don't contemplate impermanence, don't help those around them. That's called wrong diligence, only reciting the Buddha's name and doing nothing else. And if you only know one thing in your practice, you will never achieve a comprehensive outcome from a single aspect. Like a diamond, to be beautiful, valuable, and marketable, it must be beautiful on all sides, right? When a jeweler cuts and polishes a diamond, they must create many sparkling facets. And when viewed under a microscope, it shouldn't be distorted. Every facet should have a perfectly beautiful shape, with no cracks inside. The truth is also like that. The Dharma is also like that. The beauty of the Dharma is a comprehensive beauty on many fronts. We cannot claim, I don't need to treat people well, I have the right to criticize people. I don't need to prostrate to the Buddha or recite sutras because I only practice one thing, reciting the Buddha's name. That's a mistake called wrong diligence. Or someone practices the breath method and only knows about breathing while ignoring everything else in the world. They don't care about the suffering of those around them, nor do they care about the rise and fall of the Dharma. Such a person is also called wrongly diligent. Remember that. Or, for example, someone learns the concept of emptiness and then just says, everything is empty, and no longer cares about karma. That's also called wrong diligence. They are always diligent, always seeing everything in the world as empty, always seeing everything as empty in walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, but they don't know that in this illusory, dreamlike world, everything transforms and arises according to the strict law of karma. There is nothing that does not follow karma. Even if life is a dream, it must be seen as such. Even if life is a dream, everything in this life transforms and arises according to the law of karma. So, if you see that everything is empty, walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, looking at everything as empty, that's wrong diligence. So, you must see that life is both empty and subject to karma. Even though we see everything as empty, there is no good deed that we don't do, and no evil deed that we don't avoid. That's how it is. Or, for example, they are afraid of being bothered, so whenever they have the opportunity to help someone, they avoid it because they are focusing their energy on their practice. So, when they see someone who needs help, they don't help, pretending not to see or hear, to focus their energy on their practice. That's wrong diligence. Another type of wrong diligence is when one practices diligently with immense effort but boasts about it to many people. For example, a visitor comes to visit your home or spiritual center and you step out to greet them. The person asks, "Why are you sweating so much?" And you immediately say, "I just meditated for 3 hours." You weren't even asked, but you blurted it out. That's diligence. Meditating for 3 hours is good, but immediately boasting about it when you meet someone is also wrong diligence. Another case of wrong diligence is this: practicing with immense diligence and effort because one craves the status of a saint. They crave the status of a saint because they see that saints are revered and respected. They say, "Even before becoming a saint, just being a monastic, people already respect me. If I become a saint, a Zen master, it'll be even better. People will prostrate to me, respect me, give me money to spend. I'll try to practice, try to meditate diligently." So, practicing diligence for a wrong motivation, a wrong ambition, is also called wrong diligence. Another type of wrong diligence is this: being impatient and wanting to progress quickly, thus skipping fundamental stages such as regulating the body, contemplating the impermanence of the body, and seeing inner defilements. Or even more fundamentally, revering the Buddha, cultivating compassion, and cultivating humility. These are fundamental steps, but they are too impatient and unwilling to stop at the fundamentals. For example, they hear that entering meditation means concentrating on a single phrase, forgetting everything, and quickly attaining enlightenment. So, they don't bother with preliminary practices like accumulating merit through prostrations to the Buddha, cultivating compassion, or generating humility. Instead, they rush into one practice method, hoping to quickly attain enlightenment. That's also called wrong diligence. It means being eager to climb high without a foundation, like we explained this morning about foundations. You need a solid foundation for your diligence to be considered right diligence. So, someone who rushes through stages to go fast is wrongly diligent. The nuances of right diligence. When entering meditation, wanting to achieve concentration quickly is also a form of wrong diligence. Why? Because to achieve concentration, we must go through stages of regulating the body, contemplating the impermanence of the body, and seeing the defilements in our minds. These are fundamental steps. Regulating the body means what? It means sitting in the correct posture, keeping the body soft and still, knowing clearly the inhales and exhales. That's regulating the body. Contemplating the impermanence of the body means what? In the Nikaya Sutras, the Buddha taught very meticulously, and sometimes when we read the sections the Buddha taught, we think the Buddha was being redundant, speaking at length. But surprisingly, the Buddha didn't say a single unnecessary word. It's just that we don't see the benefit and don't apply it. The Buddha taught the contemplation of the impermanence of the body very meticulously and at length. If anyone obeys the Buddha, they will achieve great results in meditation. The Buddha taught that this body consists of many parts, from head to toe. One day it will die. When it dies, it will first swell up, then maggots will eat it, then it will gradually dry up, shrivel, turn dark, and rot. The flesh will fall off the bones and then only the bones remain. Over time, the bones will also dry, become brittle, gradually crumble into dust and ashes, which the wind will blow away. The Buddha described this section very meticulously and at length. When we read that section, we keep thinking, why is the Buddha speaking at such length? We should focus on meditation and not think. Yet the Buddha required us to contemplate that extensively. We keep thinking the Buddha was being redundant. No, we must contemplate that very carefully. Then, naturally, we will break the attachment to the body and our minds will settle peacefully and remain very stable afterwards. The Buddha didn't say anything superfluous. It's because we don't understand the Buddha and are arrogant, not obeying the Buddha in these fundamental stages, that we rush and our practice is not stable. The stages of regulating the body and contemplating the impermanence of the body must be practiced carefully. And seeing the defilements in the mind is an extremely fundamental and important stage. The Buddha taught very clearly, if the mind has greed, know that the mind has greed. If the mind has anger, know that the mind has anger. We will discuss these things later, but those are fundamental stages with very great results. The Buddha's words are gentle, but anyone who applies them carefully will achieve great results. The person who practices wrong diligence is unwilling to cultivate these fundamentals, instead wanting to concentrate their mind through some highly advanced method and quickly attain enlightenment. That's wrong diligence. Another type of wrong diligence is forcing and suppressing. For example, when meditating, seeing many wandering thoughts, they try to force and suppress them with their brain. This will damage the brain in the long run and lead to instability. This is also called wrong diligence. We should practice with our body and mind very gently and comfortably. For example, if wandering thoughts arise, there are gentle methods to deal with them, but you should not force and suppress the brain, hoping to concentrate the mind. That's not allowed. Remember that, in meditation, everything is very gentle and comfortable. If you force and suppress, you immediately fall into wrong diligence. And if you are wrongly diligent, you will be ruined and go insane. Now let's talk about right diligence. First, it is an iron will and endless determination, but concealed within a gentle and calm demeanor, without boasting or impatience. That's the sign of a person with right diligence. Endless, boundless willpower and iron will that nothing can shake. No difficulty can discourage them. No temptation can make them deviate from their practice. That's how it is. And they persevere to the end on the path of practice. Looking at their face, they seem as gentle as clouds or wind. Never boasting about their practice, never impatient to quickly attain enlightenment. That's the sign of right diligence. Remember that. So, someone who seems very strict and severe in their practice might actually be wrongly diligent because their diligence is exposed, visible to others. But someone whose life seems relaxed and at ease, who smiles and greets you when they meet you instead of looking stern or glum, who walks around the temple grounds lightly and easily, or who closes their door gently in their hut, and who interacts with everyone normally, might actually be cultivating right diligence. They speak little, don't boast, are not impatient, and are gentle. Be careful. That person might be following the Buddha's path correctly. Such people will be future saints because they are practicing right diligence, following the correct path. If our concentration encounters problems, for example, we are concentrating peacefully and suddenly something goes wrong, we immediately know that some karma has appeared. We quickly repent and create merit and immediately check our method. We don't act recklessly and push forward. We are not reckless. The rightly diligent person is not reckless. They never act recklessly in practice. Even if someone says, I'll die, but I'll still practice, be careful, that person might not know if it's an iron will or reckless wrong diligence. Recklessness is wrong diligence. But the rightly diligent person is calm and wise. For example, if their concentration is troubled, they don't just keep forcing it. Instead, they check. Have I done anything wrong in the past few days? Is there anything wrong with my method? Then they check again, prostrate to the Buddha, repent, check their method, consult with those who are more advanced, and then continue their practice. That's the path of right diligence. They are calm, wise, stable, and careful, not reckless. Signs of right diligence. Another sign of right diligence is that they strive without interruption every second, every minute, even in their ordinary lives, even if they haven't had the opportunity to enter a retreat. Entering a retreat means focusing all your energy on practice without any worries when you have the merit and the opportunity. But for a rightly diligent person, even if they haven't been able to enter a retreat, living an ordinary life, still having to interact with people, still having to do this and that, they always try to keep their minds concentrated, always trying to keep their minds pure. The Buddha loves such people immensely. The Bodhisattvas are looking down. The heavenly beings are looking down on that person. Don't think that no one knows what we think or do. The Buddha sees everything, the saints see everything. Therefore, for those who are still busy in this life, busy creating many merits, fulfilling many duties to life and family, yet manage to find even a little time to always return and try to concentrate their minds and maintain mental purity, the Buddha loves such people immensely. I am not saying this lightly. Not exaggerating, not for fun. We are saying this seriously. Anyone who is very busy in life but always takes advantage of every hour, every minute to concentrate their mind in purity, that person is loved immensely by all Buddhas and great bodhisattvas. That person will eventually progress towards sainthood. That person is protected by all Buddhas and heavenly beings. Remember that. Another sign of right diligence is balancing with one's health and practice schedule. This means each of us has different health conditions, so we must balance with our health and not be reckless. Some people are strong and can meditate for a longer time, exert themselves more intensely because their bodies can endure it. So, they sit and practice like that, enduring hardship, and they are doing it correctly. But if we are weaker, we should reduce our exertion a bit to conserve our strength and practice consistently for a long time. That's right diligence. Not exerting ourselves to practice for 6 months and then abandoning it completely. That's wrong diligence. So, right diligence involves wisdom, practicing at a level that we can sustain for a long time, maintaining our health to persevere, not being lazy, but also not being reckless or careless. That's the wise person. And balancing with merit. What does balancing with merit mean? It means if you know you have a lot of merit, you can put more effort into concentrating your mind in meditation. But if you know you have little merit, you should devote some time to practice and some time to creating merit. That's balancing between creating merit and concentrating the mind. That's balance, that's right diligence. You don't act recklessly, even if your merit is insufficient, and you are eager to exert yourself to practice quickly to attain enlightenment quickly. That's also a mistake, a lack of wisdom, falling into wrong diligence. Therefore, right diligence is wise. It knows how to discern, how to balance one's health and merit with one's practice. Another sign of right diligence is reducing less important activities to dedicate more time to meditation. In life, we have many things to do. Some are essential and important while others are trivial. Pay attention to what's trivial and cut it out. For example, you might go to a neighbor's house to chat and socialize, but if you see it's not very important, just stay home and meditate. There are such things. And do what needs to be done. What feels cumbersome or time-wasting, abandon it if it's not necessary. Each person has to figure that out for themselves, as there are many examples. But simply put, a person who knows how to prioritize will do what is necessary and let go of what is not. Retreat and solitude. There are stages where people vow to live in solitude, living alone and serving themselves. They prepare a hut, bring rice and water, cook and practice, not engaging with others. So, apart from the time spent practicing prostrations, cooking, bathing, and so on, all their time is dedicated to sitting in meditation and walking meditation, pouring all their energy into making rapid progress in meditation. To do this, you must have merit. That stage only appears when you have merit. If you don't have merit, no one will create the conditions or help you to have such a supported retreat. And if someone reaches a retreat where they are supported, they usually practice noble silence. When they enter the retreat, they don't speak. When someone brings them food, they just gesture and smile, they don't speak. It's not like they're bored in the retreat, so when someone brings food, they pull them down to chat about life outside. What's new? What's the latest fashion? Which singer is popular now? That's not allowed. You must practice noble silence, just smile and put your hands together to thank the person who supported your retreat. And don't speak. Many venerable monks have dreamed of a dedicated Buddhist practice center where the Sangha would organize a monastery with many strict and tranquil rooms. And monastics from all over the country could register to practice for a certain period. Someone might register for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. And they would be guided through fundamental methods and supported, allowed to enter retreats. Any method, any temple or meditation center, or any pure land or tantric center. When they come there, they would be guided back to the fundamentals and supported, allowed to enter retreat. Many venerable monks have dreamed like this, but our Sangha still lacks the conditions and opportunities to establish such a monastery. Why? Because if there were such a monastery, it would require a unified approach to all Dharma gates. so that all temples would accept it. It would have to be very fundamental, very standardized, very scientific, and even non-Buddhists would have to accept that method. And all sects would have to accept that method. And monastics, sometimes after long days of Buddhist work, present their papers saying, "I am a monk from this temple, here are my papers, and I vow to enter retreat for 3 months." They would be registered and cared for 3 months. After 3 months, they would leave the monastery and go back to their temple to continue their Buddhist work. Many venerable monks, especially the late Venerable Master, dreamed of such a monastery. But when he passed away, this program had not yet been realized. The link between willpower and merit. We reiterate that willpower and ego are often related. For example, when we make a vow to practice, like resolving to practice endlessly, but sometimes that determination suddenly disappears. We want to be determined, but we can't be anymore. It's gone. Why? Because our merit has been lost. Remember this, as long as we have merit, our willpower remains. When our merit is depleted, our willpower disappears. We will become lazy, ordinary, and weak. Therefore, always create merit, always prostrate to the Buddha, always love sentient beings, always be humble. Then our merit will endure and our willpower will endure, allowing us to continue on the path of practice. One day, if we look within ourselves and suddenly feel weak and ordinary, we must know that we are lacking merit. At that point, don't force yourself to generate willpower, because when merit is exhausted and you force yourself to generate willpower, ego will immediately surge, making us arrogant and strange. Instead, we should return to creating merit from the beginning, and then willpower will reappear. We will practice peacefully again. Diligence, hidden in a gentle and calm demeanor, that is right diligence. Remember that. If we don't have enough merit but try to appear diligent and willful, the ego will arise, making us more arrogant and prideful, and we will fall into ordinary diligence. We have many things that test our diligent mind, our power of diligence in life. For example, we are practicing steadily, but then we go out for work and get too tired, which might cause us to skip our meditation session. That's a moment when our diligence is tested. If we go home today, tired from work, and say, "Oh, I'm too tired. I'll skip meditation today and do it tomorrow," that's when we start to be influenced by negative forces. It slowly destroys our diligence. So, a practitioner, even if tired that day and unable to sit for too long, must still sit to maintain their practice schedule, never missing a session. Or, if they are sick, unless they are bedridden and unable to move, as long as they can sit up, they must still sit in meditation at the correct time. That's diligence, because sometimes unexpected things arise that test our diligence, and we fail to overcome them. Or, when we are about to meditate, something suddenly comes up that needs to be done. So, we skip the meditation session. After finishing the task, we say, "Oh, it's too late. I'll just skip it for today." Those are also tests of diligence that we fail to overcome. Sustaining diligence in all stages, and unexpected pleasures. For example, it's almost time to meditate, and suddenly someone calls, "Hey, come over, there's something fun here. Listen to this, there's a great movie." Those are unexpected pleasures that we must overcome to maintain our practice schedule. Normally, a practitioner in the initial stage is always diligent, concentrating every hour, every minute. That's the principle of diligence, as we mentioned earlier. Whether busy or not, always try to concentrate your mind every hour, every minute. That's very challenging. That's diligence. But one day, when we practice and achieve results, meaning our minds begin to settle into meditation, a strange thing appears. Our minds automatically maintain concentration without us having to try. Before, we had to constantly try to control our minds every hour, every minute, and sometimes we would forget. But when results appear, we don't try anymore, and our minds are always in concentration. Such a person is said to have reached the level of great diligence. Constantly, every hour, every minute. Many Zen masters have spoken about this stage. They say that once you reach this stage, if you become careless, your entire spiritual life will be ruined. At that point, it's very light, you don't need to exert much effort, and your mind is still peaceful. The Zen masters say that at that point, it's like walking on a sharp blade or walking on thin ice. If you are not careful, you will cut your foot, or if you walk carelessly on thin ice, it will break and you will sink into the water. We don't have thin ice in our region, but in cold countries, in winter, the surface of lakes and rivers freezes into a layer of ice, but underneath, there is still a lot of water. Many people don't know this and just run and play on the ice, but if they step on a spot where the ice is too thin, it breaks and they sink into the water. If someone tries to find them, they can't resurface at the exact spot where the ice broke, they hit the ice above their head, can't find a way out and drown. So, the Zen masters warn us that when our minds start to show results in meditation and our minds are always settled in tranquility, we must be even more careful. If we lose our willpower at that point and say, "Oh, I've achieved it. I'm free. I'm comfortable now," and stop trying, our spiritual life will be ruined again. It will become lazy again. So, remember the advice of the masters. When the mind is already settled and automatically in tranquility, remember that it is a time of walking on a sharp blade, walking on thin ice, so be vigilant. Our discussion on right diligence ends here. Have you had a good sleep yet? Yes, good, right? Now we'll take a short break. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Today, I wish us all immense reverence for the Buddha, infinite compassion, and ultimate humility, seeing ourselves as nothing. I wish us all to firmly walk on one path even when storms rage or waves crash. The Dharma cannot be surpassed. No matter the hardship, our true hearts remain unwavering. I wish us a new year with more great charitable deeds, with kindness. I wish humanity from now on to cease hostility and build peace. In the future, the Dharma's light will illuminate the entire beautiful planet. Before my wishes end, I wish us all health, beauty, wealth, and joy throughout our lives. Before my wishes end, I wish us all health, beauty, wealth, and joy throughout our lives. This poem is by Master Chan Kuang. Today, spring. Why are so many leaves falling? Today, why are so many flowers wilting and fading? In the morning, flowers bloom brightly, showing off their colors, but by evening, their fragrance has faded. The world is impermanent, like rain and sun, changing seasons. Alas, human life is like falling leaves and flowers. Yesterday, my loved ones and I saw each other. Today, we are separated. Yesterday, a bright smile. Today, tears have dried. Why can't joy last forever? Bitterness and suffering always persist. Find the path of the cool lotus to purify the soul. Life is but a dream, magnificent and wondrous. Through the illuminating scriptures, my path leads to the realm of light, filled with infinite light. The scriptures have given me faith, love, and a peaceful mind. Even amidst storms or the passage of time, my heart always remains peaceful. Passing through the dream of impermanence, living and dying, I offer to the Buddha the most sincere wish. May the flower of compassion spread its fragrance everywhere, so the world is no longer withered and faded. May light fill the darkness. From birth, may it transform into the true eternal. May suffering and karma become a cool lotus. May life be free from the dream. My life free from the dream. Namo Amitabha Buddha. This song has no title, but the singer would like to title it, "The Dream is Over."